I'm David Hogg, and this is Aaron Gartlan. Welcome to the Legal View.
The topic for this program is how a personal injury or wrongful death lawyer can add value to your case.
American law is complex and not always easily understood, so a little help and advice can go a long way. The attorneys of Hogg & Gartlan Law Firm in Dothan present Legal View. Here's David Hogg and Aaron Gartlan.
Welcome to the Legal View. Aaron, how are you doing today?
David, I'm doing great, and I'm very thankful for the opportunity to be here and do this program.
Well, it's been a great experience working together with you, Aaron, and it's a great experience having the chance to share with our friends the work that we're doing together in the area of personal injury.
David, I appreciate that, and just to give the viewers a little background information about my law partner, David Hogg. He is from Dothan, his family's from Dothan, his mother and father lived a very interesting lives, and David graduated from the University of Alabama, I believe, with a journalism degree.
Well, I started off in journalism, but I wound up majoring in political science.
Political science major, then went to Jones Law School. And how long have you been practicing now? 15 years?
15 years.
And David is a member of, and his family's members of First Presbyterian Church. He and his lovely wife Lisa have been married for 30 years. David has two children that any parents would be proud of. His daughter Amelia is a freshman in high school now, or about to be.
That's right.
A freshman in high school. His at Providence
Christian School.
And Daniel is a sophomore in college now, and Daniel's a musician, and Amelia is an actress. And again, those are two children that I know they're proud of, as any parent would be proud of those children. And
Aaron, you were in the military, I believe, right?
During college and law school, I joined the Alabama National Guard specifically to help me get through college and law school.
Yeah, you worked your way through law school like I did. I was married. Yes. You went to Jones also.
That's right.
And you've been practicing for how many years now?
11 years.
And Aaron and I had the chance to work a couple of capital murder cases together. The court appointed us to represent individuals in capital murder cases, and we put in a lot of work on those cases, and we decided that we wanted to take our practice into the area of personal injury and plaintiff's work, and we've been doing a great deal of that now for the past couple of years. And we're going to talk about some of those cases that we've handled, and we're going to talk about how an attorney can add value to a personal injury or wrongful death case, right?
That's right. And just to kind of follow up a little bit of what David just said, and to reiterate some of those things, we really have had some fortunate experiences together with the cases that we've handled in the last several years. I mean, we've basically handled car wreck and personal injury cases throughout our entire legal careers, but it's just been in the last 2 years or so we've really shifted a focus on handling more personal injury and wrongful death and insurance cases. And David, one other thing I think is important, I think it's something that you've taken a lot of pride in, and something that we have also done together as part of our law practice and partnership together, is would you tell everybody a little bit about our law office, the Sanders House, and give them some background about that?
Yeah, Aaron, about 5 years ago I bought an interest in a beautiful old house in downtown Dothan. It's called the Sanders House. It was built by John Sanders, who was a pioneer businessman in Dothan. He had a wagon and buggy shop in early Dothan. He also was a bank president. It's a gorgeous Victorian-style house close to the middle of town. And we did some restoration And in the past year, you've bought into the house, and we're proud to own it. It's a beautiful piece of Dothan architecture, and the house was built in 1913. It's a beautiful wood frame house with wood floors, high ceilings. We love for people to come by. Every time somebody comes by, they always talk about what a beautiful place it is. And we're proud to have restored part of the downtown Dothan history and preserve it for future generations.
And just to follow up on that and give everybody a little more background, and it may sound like a oxymoron, but just what a hard-working, nice and honest person that David is. I just want to tell everybody, a couple of stories about him and some of his experiences, and it may be something that he wants to talk about. But these always, in my mind, make interesting stories to tell the potential jurors during jury selection. But while David was in law school, he had the opportunity to work with a fine attorney named Sam Adams, and was leaving there after putting in a long day's work, and actually was robbed at gunpoint. That's one story that I'm sure in a lot of ways he would like to forget, but it was a unique experience, and it's something that I think helps him connect with potential jurors in cases. Another story, just to kind of give you an example of what a family man and just a hard-working guy he is. He was in the backyard several years ago working on a tree house and actually fell off the roof and broke his back. His son helped him get to his truck. David drove himself to the hospital. Not only did he drive himself to the hospital, he parked in a parking place, and his son helped him through the hospital door there at the emergency room. And I'll take it a step further to show you how dedicated he is to his clients and his cases. He was actually working with a laptop and had a legal assistant bringing files to him while he was in the hospital.
Well, a lawyer's got to do what a lawyer's got to do, right?
That's right.
But that's a kind word, Aaron. Actually, you and I have worked around each other for many years. While you were in law school, you worked for a lawyer or a couple of lawyers downtown in the same building where I had my first office after I went out on my own.
That's right.
Yeah, you worked with Blake Green and Tom Smith.
That's right. And if I remember correctly, and I believe I am, we actually helped one another on some cases. I believe Thomas and you had a case together, and I think I actually helped you guys prepare that case for trial.
And when you finished law school, you went out on your own after a while, I believe, didn't you? Did you you worked with a couple of different law firms in town, actually?
That's right. I had the opportunity of working with Tom Motley and his law firm for about a year, and then I had the opportunity of working with Reggie Rhodes, Chris Capps, and Kevin Moulton, who of course is somebody that you were connected with through Sam Adams and is now one of our circuit judges. So I had the opportunity of working with those lawyers, and just really they helped me get my start, and we're really, all of those guys were mentors to me.
Right. You opened an office in Dale County.
I worked in Dale County for several years, and also maintained an office here in Dothan with Reggie Rhodes, and also at the same time maintained an office in Dale County with an attorney named Jim Jacobs, and those are both all of those guys were just great experiences, and really learned a lot working with every one of those attorneys.
That's a lot of work running back and forth between Dale County and Dothan. Did you work while you were in your car?
Well, you know, this is probably something that I shouldn't share with everybody because it may not be the safest thing, the safest way to do it. But I really spent a lot of time on the cell phone, back and forth, you know, returning phone calls, checking in with the office, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, technology's made us real accessible now with our offices.
That's right.
Well, now you have closed your office in Dale County, is that right?
That's right. Since you and I made the decision to form a partnership and buy the Sanders House together, and you know, with the shift of the focus into personal injury and wrongful death and insurance cases, my office is here exclusively in Dothan right now.
However, we handle cases all over the state.
Absolutely.
A case might have a certain value, but an attorney can add value to that case. An attorney plays an important role in developing the important facts of a case that show, in a personal injury setting, for example, how the client has been injured, how he has suffered financially, how his family has suffered from the injury that occurred. The attorney can bring experts into the picture who can help show a jury the loss that the victim or the client has suffered, the total amount of medical expenses that the client has incurred and will incur in the future. There are also experts who can testify, tell a jury about the future economic losses that a person may incur as a result of not being able to work, the jobs that are no longer available for that client to work in because of the limitations that they have suffered in the accident. There are quite a number of ways that an attorney can add value to a case, increase its worth, and tell us a few other ways that an attorney can add value to a case.
It's so important when a injury or death occurs to have an experienced personal injury or wrongful death lawyer involved in the case immediately. Believe it or not, you know, we have cases and have seen cases, and it's just typical. A person is injured and they're in the hospital, or in more serious cases, the family may be at a funeral home working out the funeral arrangements, and there's insurance company or corporate representatives that are out there with professionals, with lawyers that are investigating the case, and quite frankly doing everything in their power to limit the cost of the claim, which basically means to pay the injured person or the family that's lost a loved one the least amount of money possible, and quite often try to find a way to not pay on the case at all, to not pay them anything. So it's so important. You know, the natural tendency is to think about, and it's understandable, you know, we've heard all the jokes, and I laugh at those jokes myself, but the reality of it is, it's just so important. You know, we hear all the lawyer jokes and ambulance chasers, and it's a tough situation to be in. But again, the natural tendency for people is to say, well, we'll worry about that when he gets out of the hospital, or we've got to get through this now, and we'll deal with that later. And I've lost a loved one, and David, I know you've lost a loved one, and there's nothing that stings worse than that. But again, the reality of the situation is it's so important, because the other side, I can assure you that the companies, they have their lawyers, they have their investigators, and they're out there doing everything they can to limit or not pay the claim at all. You know, to find out what happened, you know, what conduct was it, what caused the injury or death, and to also look at the case, evaluate the case, and be able to prove to an insurance company, to a judge, potentially to a jury, what the damages and injuries are. Again, it's so important that a person or a family that finds herself in that situation has the resources on their side to make sure that they're treated fairly in that case. And something else, and it's something I know that we take great pride in, we always know that we have an opportunity to make an impact, especially in the cases where our clients or their families have suffered serious injuries, and even more serious, the death cases. We know the work that we're fortunate to have the opportunity to do has an impact directly in their lives. And oftentimes, again, depending on how serious it is, the injury, or again, if it's a death case, a great impact in their lives. But we also like to think that we also have an impact in the safety of work conditions, the safety of the highways. And what I mean by that, oftentimes when we get involved in the investigation, in the discovery phase of a case, we find out that there's more there's more going on behind the scenes. It was not just an isolated incident or an accident. Oftentimes, for instance, in a death at an industrial site, an injury or a death that occurs at an industrial site, once you get in and start investigating the case, you find out there's underlying issues regarding worker safety that on first glance, the company position may be, well, it was the worker's fault. But once you get into it and investigate the case, you find out that the safety starts at the top, and there's policies, there's procedures, there's training that's either not being followed or it's just not being done at all. Also, in cases that involve wrecks involving 18-wheelers and tractor-trailers, you find the same thing. You have sometimes in cases you'll find that there are drivers on the road that should not be driving that type of vehicle, and maybe not even driving at all for that matter, or for whatever reason they may be under pressure regarding their job and getting their stops on time, and so they're pushing it from a speed standpoint, and something that may on its face look like a simple rear end collision, you may find out that you have a driver that's being pressured by their company to regarding the time it's taken them to make deliveries. So we like to think that not only the work that we do, but the work that other injury lawyers do around the state actually helps to make the workplace safer and the streets safer.
When a serious accident, injury occurs, or a death, the family always has questions. They always want to know why, what happened. They're full of questions, and often the workplace is not going to communicate with them. They're going to try to keep as much information hidden as they can. They don't have to give the family or the injured worker. But when an attorney comes into the picture, the attorney can invoke the power of the court to require information to be given. And the worker, represented by an attorney, has the ability to get more information about what happened sooner than the family does or the injured worker who's not represented. And I know that it's important to begin an investigation in a serious case immediately, before evidence disappears, before the conditions change. And an investigator hired by a law firm can go out and begin the investigation, begin documenting, photographing the scene, gathering reports, interviewing witnesses, and begin to document the facts that are necessary to help establish what happened. When a lawsuit is filed, The discovery process enables the attorneys to get evidence that would not be available to your average person who doesn't have the power of the court behind them, enabling them to require the other side, the employer, to furnish this information or provide this information. But it's true, isn't it, that when an attorney gets involved, for example, in a workplace type setting where there's been a serious injury or a death, the employer knows that their attorney needs to get involved with the injured worker's attorney, because their failure to cooperate is going to make things seem worse on them if they don't. If their attorney doesn't provide some level of cooperation. And that's something that, again, the average person making a request is not going to be able to get from the employer, from the person in control of the site where the injury or the death occurred.
An experienced personal injury and wrongful death lawyer needs to be making those decisions with the family as far as the best way to handle the case, to put it in the best position possible, to do the very best for that family.
When we talk about the discovery process, once a lawsuit is filed, if one is necessary, there's a time period where the attorneys on both sides can discover the other side's evidence. That process can actually help foster a settlement, can't it?
Absolutely. And in many cases, and what we, of course, like to do, whether it's dealing with an insurance company or dealing with the attorney on the other side through litigation, again, everything is driven to prepare that case from the very beginning for trial if necessary. But absolutely, the more the other side oftentimes is exposed really to both sides. Each side gets to learn about the facts and circumstances surrounding the injury or death, and it can actually help force both sides to deal with the issues related to the case, and can oftentimes result in a case being settled before trial.
Yeah, for example, the defense attorney sees that the plaintiff's lawyer knows all of the weaknesses in their case, that they've accumulated enough evidence to convince a jury to award a large amount of money, then they can go to their client and tell them that it's in their best interest to settle this case.
Absolutely, and save their company potential exposure beyond their insurance, as well as the time and the money and the effort that it takes in pursuing a case through the court system. And the same is true for the plaintiff's attorney. The same is true again for the attorney representing a family in a wrongful death case, or a person that suffered an injury. It gives them an opportunity to review the facts and circumstances related to their case, so everyone can make a decision about, again, the value of the case and how much time and money can be devoted to that case. And that is because again, the more serious injury and death cases oftentimes can take a lot of time and money to put into the case, and that's an important factor for a person to use in determining the attorney to go, to represent them.
And we've talked about how an attorney can add value to a case, whether a personal injury case or a wrongful death case. A good example of that in the discovery process would be an attorney knows the law relating to the discovery process. If the person not represented by an attorney were to file his own discovery requests, he would be faced immediately with a series of objections by the defendant's attorney. It's very customary for the defense attorney to try to limit the amount of evidence that he has to turn over, and ultimately those disputes wind up being fought out in court, and the judge actually has to enter orders requiring the employer, for example, in a case where you've had an injured worker, to turn over the evidence that they're objecting to producing. So an attorney brings value to a case in that regard.
That's right, and also just leading into, under Alabama law, a person in a plaintiff in a personal injury or wrongful death claim, it has to prove the case. They have the burden to prove the case and their damages, and under Alabama law there's several types of damages. There's compensatory damages, which relate to medical bills and future medical bills, lost wages and future loss of earnings, pain and suffering and mental anguish in certain cases, as well as loss of consortium related to a spouse in certain cases, and also in certain cases punitive damages. Now, an insurance company or company is not just going to get out their checkbook and out of the goodness of their heart just start writing a check. Those damages have to be proven. So what a personal injury and wrongful death lawyer can bring to the table in that situation is the gathering the information, whether it's through medical records, documents, witnesses, family members, friends, that can help prove the damages in a case, and quite often it requires bringing in outside experts, outside doctors, whether it's psychiatrists or neurosurgeons or life care planners, to talk about future health care, possibly economic people that can testify and put a dollar value on the value of a life or the loss of earnings, and that's something that we do in cases, and it's so important because it does take time and money to do that. But again, ultimately, you have to, in order to ensure maximum recovery, you have to prove your damages. So in closing, a personal injury and wrongful death lawyer can add value to a case by investigating the case, evaluating the case, and ensuring that the proper experience, expertise, and resources are devoted to that case to ensure that the injured person or the family of a deceased person is fairly compensated.
That's right, Aaron, and we take pride in taking that approach with our cases. Well, that sums up tonight's show. We're looking forward to seeing you again next week. Good night.
To submit legal questions you may have, email to aaron@hoggartlandlawfirm.com. Thanks for watching. This has been a production of the Hogg & Gartlan Law Firm and WDFX-TV, Fox 34.